Waiting on Steve here.
All good. All good.
All right, Steve, you there?
I'm here. Hey, coach.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. This is Dugout Talk. I'm Mark Specker, and joining me is head coach of the LaSalle Lancer baseball team, Trey Altman, and my broadcast partner, Steve Smith. Well, you tuned in to listen to baseball talk, so let's just get right to it. Trey, my first question to you is, I've watched the team through the scrimmages in our first three games, and there's fundamental defense, there's depth in pitching, there's good play, and I'm surprised that we're 1-2. And if you had asked me before the season started that we would start out 1-2, who would that one victory be against? And the last team I would answer would be the Elder Panthers. USA Today ranked them number 14 in the state of Ohio in the preseason poll. Are you surprised that that turns out to be our only win so far?
I would say I'm surprised that's our only win.
I got you.
Awesome, awesome. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, I would say no win surprises me. I'll put my guys out there against anybody and expect to win. Obviously, the first two didn't go our way, but yeah, no win really surprises me. And we all know what we get in the GCL, especially against Elder. They're going to be a well coached fundamental team, and we came out and kind of put it all together. Finally, it took us three games, but we put some stuff together and made it happen.
All right. Uh,
Definitely. Sorry, go
Steve,
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, so coach, late in the game, when you guys are playing Oak Hills, and Mark and I both commented on this and brought it up in the broadcast yesterday as well. But I overheard you in the dugout some of the late innings. You mentioned in the dugout to your players as they were ready to go out on the field or go into the field for offense, have an approach at the plate. And unfortunately, with Oak Hills, it didn't work out. The offense really did strike gold yesterday, though. And it's almost like a delayed reaction on that message that they had some time to kind of dwell on that and think about it. And it really struck me. So I guess my question to you is, what are your thoughts in offering that advice to the team and about how the offense responded against Elder?
I guess when we talk about having an approach, I realized we had to be a little bit more specific. And so we talk a lot about approach. We talk a lot about the mental side of hitting because physically, we sit in the cage. I mean, shoot this morning, sitting in the cage, everybody's, banging the ball exactly how we want them to do it, just translating those physical tools into the game. So we just wanted to make sure we're having an approach. And so even we had the same, I guess, conversation against Turpin on Saturday and tried to pinpoint a couple things. And then in the Oak Hills game, they were kind of doing the same thing to us against our offense. And so, kind of our conversation after that Oak Hills loss was let's define our approach. And so we had basically individual conversations with guys and said, okay, what are you thinking when you step up to the plate? And then said, okay, well, this is what you should be thinking. Not to get too into the weeds here, but we looked at something like 50 something fastballs for strikes. And that's just not a recipe for success at any level of baseball to be watching fastballs. And so, kind of just refining our mental side and diving into, hey, we're hunting fastballs. They're gonna throw them eventually, so we got to stop watching them. And so, knowing that especially the middle part of our order can hit anything, taking advantage of those fastballs that guys were giving us and kind of just having that as an approach seemed to finally click last night. Or yeah,
There were
last night.
some beautiful hits. The guys just barreled the ball in great spots. So yeah, that was evidenced by what you talked about.
Okay, switching gears just a bit. Chris Richmond and Kellen Riesenbeck. Last year they were our double play combo, and this year they're the battery mates. And can you describe the chemistry between the two?
Absolutely. Those two guys, we leaned on them quite a bit this offseason. Those guys were kind of our go-to guys in rallying the troops to get here and there and everywhere. And even in the halls at school, those two guys are together a lot, just enjoying each other's company, and bringing other guys with them, and making sure everybody's included and all that kind of stuff. But those two guys specifically kind of have very similar goals in baseball. And so kind of those two pushing each other all off season, those two guys understanding how each other kind of click, understanding what they need to do to get to where they're trying to get to. So those two guys have kind of really grabbed onto a leadership type role, and a lot of guys are following along, which is awesome. But between those two guys, um, I don't hear them talk a lot, but they're always hanging out. I don't hear them talk to each other, and when Jacob Kaiser tells Chris to go out to the mound to talk to him, I don't think they talk about much. I think they're kind of on the same page. It's more of a, just dialed in type of deal. But even if it's not the battery mate, even if they're at practice, even if they're just walking the halls from class to class, those two guys are on the same page, understanding the end goal that they both have, and hopefully achieving those things together would be awesome.
Well, I had a small sampling of the two of them when I went into the dugout and Chris was sitting there on the bench. And we're doing a new thing this year in our broadcast, and it's a word of the day where a player will give us a word, and Steve and I will try to use that throughout the broadcast. But we're not telling the audience what the word is or what we're doing. We're just trying to keep using this word over and over.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know how successful we are at that, but uh, that's a goal. So anyway, I asked Chris, I told him what we were doing, and he couldn't think of a word right away. But what he did was he said, "Hey, Kellen." And Kellen was on the other side of the dugout fence. And he asked Kellen what the word of the day should be. And Kellen provided us with goober. So it's just a sample of how they have each other's back. It's just the teamship, the camaraderie. And
And he kind of hits the nail on the head there, the camaraderie, and they're, for lack of a better term, there's some silly guys. They're out there having a good time, getting a chance to play baseball, and they don't take that for granted. And so when you talk about his word ends up being goober, that's hilarious because they that's a term that we do throw around occasionally, and when we're making sure that we're using some Lasallian vocabulary. That's a good term for us.
well, he came up with that pretty quick. It didn't take long for him to tell me what it is.
I believe that.
All right, Steve.
Good stuff. Yeah. So, Coach, even before the regular season, looking at some of the scrimmage performances, Mark and I recognized and had conversations about the apparent strength of this year's pitching squad that you have, kind of piggybacking on what Mark was talking with the battery. We saw it in pockets with Turpin and Oak Hills games. And yesterday against Elder, the pitching that you had out there held Elder to just one hit. And that occurred in the first inning. Can you share your thoughts about the efforts you've observed from your pitching staff so far?
Absolutely. The pitching staff is something that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about. It's something I know. Number one, my pitching coach Jacob Kaiser, he's got those guys dialed in. The guys really like hanging out with and working with him. So I know that those guys are dialed in, and in any situation, I got 7, 8 guys that I'm very confident to throw on the mound. And I think it's shown. Even when the end result hasn't gone our way, it's definitely not because of our pitching. It has been so far we just haven't been able to put enough runs on the board to support those guys. The pitching staff is going to be kind of something year long that we lean on, and we still have a couple guys we haven't even gotten to showcase yet because of this situation, that situation. Some guys that maybe under the radar, but we're going to throw them out there in a big situation, and I'm not going to be surprised, but there's going to be some shocked faces out there, I'm sure.
Okay. Our next three games We go down to Louisville on Saturday, weather permitting, and then we've got Moeller at Moeller, and we've got St. X at St. X. And we run through this gauntlet every year. How do you sleep at night?
I sleep soundly because I get to see these guys day in and day out at practice. I know what we're capable of. I know the type of character that we have in our dugout, and I know that no matter who I line up against, no matter who I get a chance to put on our schedule, my guys are going to show up and show out. And so when we get to this part of our schedule where we got multiple nationally ranked teams according to this site or that site, um, it's an awesome opportunity for us that not only that we can go out there and shock some folks and put LaSalle on the map, but also just good opportunity to play quality opponents so that when playoff time comes around, there's not going to be anybody that shocks us because we've already seen, you name it, we've seen it.
Very
Love
good.
that. Well, my last question for you, Coach, tonight. Defensively, there've been a few errors here and there, which is probably not uncommon earlier on in the season. You got guys that have the preseason and then regular season jitters. Some guys may be new to positions that they haven't played in the past. There are a variety of reasons for that. However, overall, we've really taken note that the team does seem to be playing well defensively as a group in all areas. We've seen tremendous plays in the outfield, guys making really great catches and having a range a long way, tremendous turns and double plays and nice stops. And clearly, one of the things that we talked about in the preseason with our interview with you is the change of catcher and having Chris Richmond out there and the dividends he's already paid to the team behind the plate. Tremendous success rate of picking off runners, gunning down base stealers. Any thoughts or observations you would like to share with us regarding the defensive play in the team so far?
Defensively, it's always kind of a tough read. We had a great preseason, great offseason in terms of ability to kind of get some work in. The weather now isn't so favorable to get some reps, but all offseason, all preseason, we had decent weather where we could get out there and get fly balls. We could get out there and see ground balls on our field. And so the ability to get those reps preseason was invaluable. So we kind of knew that errors happen; it's a part of the game. But we knew we had enough reps where we should be feeling comfortable. And so when the games come around and we've gotten opportunities, guys have showed that off. And it's another piece kind of our pitching where our pitchers are hitting spots. So we've got our guys aligned in an appropriate manner. We've got all the different pieces and kind of some of that. I'm still moving guys around. We're trying to find the best nine to put runs on the board to support those arms. And so that might still come with a couple of defensive moves here or there. A couple guys that in positions that we haven't seen them in games or scrimmages, but I've seen them enough in practice where I'm comfortable. I think Lynch is a good example of that, where he was at third base most of the preseason, at third base most of the offseason. But knowing his skill set when we just weren't getting any production out of that spot at the time, let's throw him out there and see what happens. And luckily, he's come around for us here the last two games with some good timely hitting too.
Great. Well, thank you, Coach.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Trey, thank you for sharing the insights with us and our fans. And we'll have more of these as the season goes on, as time allows. And we just really enjoy what you're doing with the team. They're fun to watch, they're fun to be around. And Steve and I are having a great time with it.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you guys are having fun. We're having a blast, and I'm very confident that's going to start translating into more and more wins as the year progresses. I'm going to work on my background game. I'm not quite up to your level yet, Mark, but I'll have that honed in for the next one.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, and live Jesus in your hearts.
Sure.
Forever.